Yeah, I mean, it was about time.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll own that.
yeah, you're live.
Oh, we are live.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! I thought you were kidding me. Anyhow, so for those of you, we've had a great response to the series where we're featuring Low Carb USA 2024 in San Diego. We've had a great interview with Rob Sives, Adrian Sotomoto. Had a lot of people telling us how interested they were in it. Eric Berg,
Dave Feldman.
Dave Feldman. A lot of people loved Dave Feldman's discussion about lean mass hyperresponders. Many others. So Dr. Roshni about motivational interviewing.
Dr. Sangani, yeah.
Dr. Sangania. So this is the gentleman who made that all possible. So this is Doug Reynolds. Doug Reynolds created and managed Low Carb 2024. Doug, you want to say hi to our group?
Hey, hi. Hi.
So
What else to say?
we were just talking about that does not come easy. There is a load of logistical challenges, financial challenges, political challenges that you have to be able to wade through to make this happen. So do you have a few comments about tell us a couple of stories? We were just talking about a couple of them on how things, what kind of challenges you run into when you try to set up an event.
Well, maybe this year we've had more challenges actually get the event started than we've had for a while. And this is our 21st event. And the challenges that we had this year were kind of when we got it's more my fault, right? So we run the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, a non-profit as well, which is a spin-off of Low Carb USA. Low Carb USA as well. And it's a long story, but basically we ended up agreeing to overhaul completely both sites like a couple of weeks before the event.
Oh!
And build a brand new app. And so
I've had some challenges with that app.
So like 5 days before the event started, the Low Carb USA's new site went live. And so before we were trying to get on the plane, get ready for the plane, try and respond to all the support emails and all of that kind of stuff, I was trying to debug the damn site.
I gotta ask, who decided to go live 2 weeks before? Funny.
But the decision was made a couple of months before. But I'm a software engineer, so I should have known better, right? They promised us that it would be ready like at least a month before the event was both sites.
Yeah.
So 7 days before this one went live, and it was full of bugs and stuff, so we had to fix that. And then 2 days before the app got approved, and that linked in with the buggy site, and so man. And then like 2 days before as well, just when the app went live, they gave me the SMHP development site. And Pam and I looked at it, and it was just like, there's like 4 weeks of work to just like fix all the copy and all of that, just to make it, get it to a point where it's ready to launch. So I said to them, okay, this is a bridge too far. Like, we're not going to do the SMHP site, but like, we've already got the low carb one.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, it's going to be 1,000,000 times better. But, oh my goodness. It was a lot of work. So then all of that's going on, right? So normally I get to the hotel like a few days before, and I'm literally just kind of watch stuff. I'm so organized that stuff starts to happen. Every now and then a little thing goes wrong, and I fix that, and it all runs. It's on rails and it runs. This time, everything went wrong.
Oh, really?
And
Oh,
then
man.
we got the day we started. I mean, we set up everything here the day before. Everything was tested, the live stream, everything perfect. We had people on the stage like pretending like they were doing a talk or whatever, and we were streaming and we were looking at it on another computer, and it was all perfect.
And
then on the day, we start streaming, and Pam, we've got like a chat box under our live stream video screen, and so Pam sits at the back there, and she's like communicating with all these people, and everyone starts bleating about the fact that it's not working. It's all glitchy and whatever, and the guys, the AV guys, are like beside themselves trying to understand what's wrong, and it took us 2 hours to fix that, and like stop and start 4 times, change out computers. Turns out they eventually had like an old version of the live stream code on an older computer that wouldn't upgrade because the computer was too old. So they downloaded. They had a new one there, which I don't know why it wasn't on the stream already, but they downloaded the latest live stream code, and then between 2 of the talks, they actually did a swap out of the computers. Like I had to talk on the stage and like take up time. And then they got it going, but now it was connected and the internal mic was still connected, so everybody on the live stream could hear them talking at the back. And everybody was carrying on about, I much prefer the old one because I don't want to listen to this whispering.
My
and
goodness. So how many people did you have on the live stream?
I don't know how many were actually on. We probably got about 250 signed up for it. I don't know how many of that 250 were actually online because I was too busy with other stuff. I was trying to like run the show,
Manage
right?
this app.
And Pam was
This part.
freaking out, like trying. And some of the people, you know, we were talking earlier off air about how nice this community is.
Yes.
But there were a couple of people that were being
Not so nice.
pretty rude, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault. I mean, goodness, you know, it was an AV. Maybe they should have known better and they should have updated with the software and that. But whatever, it happened, right? Hell, there were a couple of people that were rude, and she was in tears.
Oh, man.
You got that.
Yeah.
It's not like you had anything else to deal with, too. Huh?
Yeah, and she took it so personally. We both do, though.
Yeah.
Because this means so much to us, like putting on a good show, you know, and like you I don't know how much time you spent in there, but I lecture these guys about not dominating the mic and being quiet and trying to be, you know, be considerate of other people there.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, it shows in there, you know, from the very beginning where you're saying, hey, you guys that are lining that back corner where Jesus and Jesus kept going back there, so I had to go back there. But he and I never whispered because you'd been telling us, don't do that.
But it makes such a difference. It's actually...
It does.
Because if you're sitting there, I don't know, some people can tune it out. But
Yeah,
I certainly can't. And I know there's a lot of people like me. And I'm hearing people going over here, and then
That made a
there's
difference.
Yeti's cluck and then, you know, and then bing, and the phones go off, and there's all these distractions.
Yeah.
And maybe I've got ADHD or something, but I just can't deal with that.
Well, you're not the only person that has
Well,
problems with distractions. and
But
it's really-
because I try and prevent that, I come across as a bit of an authoritarian or a Nazi,
you did,
right?
but that was okay.
But there's so
The
many people
outcome
come to me and say,
of that-
thank you for doing that.
Exactly
And that's
right.
why I keep doing it.
The
you know?
outcome of that was a much better event because there was a lot of people in that room.
Yeah.
How many were in there?
Well, we got 300, so I don't know if
300,
all. Some of the like Gary Taub's talk and stuff like that, there were probably all 300 there. So,
Oh, for sure. We were there for that, and it's hard to manage an event in a single room with 300 people in it and still be able to hear what's going on.
Right.
And you could at this event.
So, Dr. Brewer, just for the people who's new to the audience, what is low carb about? What's the goal? Why are we all here today?
Very, very interesting. I'll tell you why I'm here, because it's the ultimate meeting of all for example, my peers, low carb content creators on YouTube. Now that's one of the big things for me, but I'm coming in from that space. Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit? You've got a long history with low carb and the low carb communities. You and I were just talking about There were actually more than one low-carb communities here in the United States, and you're in the midst of a consolidation.
Kind of consolidating, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we started here, San Diego, Lowcarb San Diego, and then we were only going to do one event. That when we did that event, that was the plan.
That was it.
But everybody was saying, "Oh, when are we doing another one?" You know, and so that was how I ended up stayed up through the night, built a page for the next year's event, and basically offered these guys tickets at like half price if they would buy them now. We don't know who the speakers are, nothing. We just, if it's half as good as this one, then we come in.
Yeah.
If you think that way, then buy these tickets. And that money that we collected in that week after the first event
in San Diego
literally was enabled us to pay off the hotel. We were in such trouble.
Oh,
And,
people assume that running an event like this is a great way to make a whole bunch of
hell
money.
no.
And as you've discussed, it's not major financial risk.
It is huge, and you sign these contracts with the hotels. You know, you have minimum room blocks that you have to meet. You have minimum food and beverage minimums that you have to meet. Like you've got these dinners that we serve out here.
Yeah.
In 90, so we kept growing and ended up, my mistake again, signing the salesperson here basically built the next contract on how we were growing. So it was even ahead of what, and that growth stalled. It actually went down a little bit the following year. I think 2018.
Okay. It wasn't.
No, this is before COVID.
The COVID apocalypse.
2019. So it was the year before COVID. But everything so we had, the year before, we had 650 people here. And then it was built that we were expecting to have even more than 650. Pam told me, don't sign this contract, but I was so excited about the growth that I did. And we didn't get those numbers. And we paid $90,000 in penalties for 2019 for not meeting those contract minimums that we had signed for.
So let me just clarify for the folks. So what you're talking about is you ended up paying $90,000 because of your commitment.
Correct. The hotel contract.
This is, to the question, this is the number one, in my mind anyway, you don't have to say it or defend it one way. This is the number one confab, the number one meeting of the low carb community. I have my own focus on other YouTube content creators, but again, huge component of the leaders in low carb in this country.
And for those who are wondering, is a lot of science-based content. So we're not just chit-chatting, we're talking about science and the evidence behind
cheerleader type
carbohydrate restriction therapy.
Yes.
And I think that the thing that kind of highlights that is that we actually provide continuing education credits for physicians and other practitioners.
Yes.
So that's really what we're pitching it at. Mm-hmm. But we also really encourage people from the public to come and to attend as well. And there's so many of us, because I'm not a physician, I'm an engineer, right? And just because we're not a doctor doesn't mean we can't learn stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there are so many non-doctors that know so much more than most doctors in this country. Not the ones that are here, but the others that refuse to acknowledge this, right? And so, we understand this stuff as well as any doctor.
Yeah.
There are a few new people that show as well. And sometimes I'll end up talking with them and I'm really nervous and whatever. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. Just sit there and if it's above your pay grade, just let it go over your head.
Just relax.
Because
and
half
let
of it you will understand.
The vast majority.
Right. You'll understand a bunch of it. And then you start building. And every time you go and listen to YouTube videos, of these speakers doing other things, and eventually every time you hear this thing a couple of times and it starts to make sense and the penny drops, and
Yeah.
after a while you understand it like we do,
Well,
and like most doctors don't. And
it's very easy to say. Dr. Vega and I run a telemedicine practice, a telemedicine.
Can you repeat that back again?
Yeah, Dr. Vega and I run a telemedicine practice. We have active licenses in all 50 states. We actually have a lot of patients throughout the world as well. And our typical patient, you know, we are doctors. We've been on both sides of this fence. Our typical patient knows more about heart attack and stroke, let alone low carb, than 99%, well, at least 95% of doctors.
And to the audience, just pardon the noise a little bit. Your,
hey guys,
your,
can you keep it down for 2 minutes while we finish this interview,
yeah,
please?
I mean, yeah, just a little bit. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very
We
much.
appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank
You're,
you.
you're the best. Thank you. So you were saying that I am the best assistant you have ever had, or what you were saying?
Is that what? Do you remember me saying that?
No, I don't think so.
That wasn't it.
Oh man.
That wasn't it all the way it was going.
No.
But you are a great channel manager. You're a great physician. You know the prevention space.
You're making me blush, but you can continue with the interview.
But this is the meeting of that group, and unfortunately, there's too much pushback for this group in the country. I think that's one of the reasons you mentioned earlier how there's so much spirit in this group and so much camaraderie along with the good science. And I think, and you hear it in the questions that come up. People are getting beat on
Right.
out
Yes.
in the rest of the world.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And you know, I think we did the first one here, and I was running around like a chicken without a head, like just trying to keep everything on the rails. But then we did the next one in the January in West Palm Beach in Florida, and it was much smaller, and everything was like here it's all spread out, right? So we were in Florida, we were like right out, everything, the expo, everything was like right outside the hall, and our registration table. And I was sitting at the registration table, and Pam was and a couple of others were actually, you know, dealing out the badges and stuff like that. And I was at my computer like trying to work. But it was the first time that I kind of looked up and could smell the roses and sort of saw what was going on, you know. And I remember the one young girl came in and I heard her talking, and she came in and she was like, she started crying. She's saying, I don't think I should be here. And Pam said, what are you talking about? She said, no, like I'm a health coach. And she was a little bit overweight. She said, but look at me, you know, how can I be telling people like about their health when I look like this? But we find out that she's actually like used to be like this, right?
Yeah.
And so she's on her journey, and she like her husband is sabotaging her, and all her friends are sabotaging her.
Yeah.
And Pam said, listen. And she said, Pam said, just, you've paid for the ticket. Just come and sit here and listen.
Chill out and listen.
And I choked up here because watching her develop over those 3 days was just astounding.
You see a lot of that.
She said, like, I feel like for the first time, I don't have to be afraid to ask a question about low carb or something like this. This is a community now where I can ask these questions. And she just blossomed in 3 days. It was something to see. But what we also noticed was the doctors that were there. Because what we started to realize was they get sabotaged and ostracized and all of this even
and lose
more.
their license.
Right, by their own communities.
Yeah.
And so to have a place where they can feel safe and talk about this stuff with other colleagues that they know are not going to undermine them and criticize them and try and have them struck off and stuff. It's even more important to cultivate the community for those people than just for the people in the public. And
Yes.
from that day or that weekend, I decided that this was so much bigger than an event.
Oh, yeah.
And that what we needed to do was cultivate a community that provided support for all of these people, the public and these practitioners. And that's what we're about now. And I did, if you have got time for a little anecdote, like there's a vendor here who's never been to a low carb conference before, and trying to break into it or whatever, and one of them wanted to talk to me, and I went over to speak to her last night during the expo. And she said to me, like, they go conferences all over the place. And she said, this place feels like a family.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to her, you don't know how proud that makes me.
Yeah.
To hear you say that, because that is what we strive for. That's what we want to be providing, is this place for people to be safe. And that completely unsolicited from someone outside of the community to notice that was special for me. That's probably my take-home moment from this whole event, was that comment from that lady last night.
I can see why. There's so much good being done here. And as you're saying that, one of the things that it's reminding me of is the mental health component.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Talk about good, hard science and major impact on mental health. I mean, I had known that. I do this for a living, but I mostly focus on cardiovascular implications. And you know, even the doctors in the community understand that full diabetes has a major impact, especially with depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
But the information that these folks shared in terms of, psychosis, schizophrenia, major issues, and the science behind
he's not actually here. Well, we weren't able to get him here for this event, but he spoke, Dr. Palmer, Chris Palmer. Mm-hmm. So he spoke in Boca a couple of years at our event there, and so he did his whole talk, and towards the end, he started giving us a couple of examples. And his last example was this person that had schizophrenia, and he spent a bit of time describing to us what this person's life was like for real. And then went on to describe, then we got him on this diet and this thing, and like he's very careful to make sure that especially with mental health, that if you start messing with people, the stuff changes, and you have to be very careful about titrating, monitoring, controlling their medications as well, so that it doesn't end up getting them in even more trouble. But so he gets, he works with this person, and basically they are completely normal now.
dramatic
Completely
impact.
normal.
Yes.
And they call it a reversal or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, he's cured. As long as he doesn't go back to eating all that crap, he's cured. But and that was like how he ended his talk, and it was like you could hear a pin drop. It was like everyone just like sat there, and eventually I thought, I better get up there and sort of kick off the Q&A. But I had this lump in my throat, and I turned around and like everyone's got tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't speak to say, guys, like, anybody got a question, kind of thing, That was the first time I learned about how impactful it could be on mental health.
Yeah.
And but since then, what's been, I think, amazing for the mental health community is the coming of the Bazooki Foundation, right? So, if you don't know the story about, they are
Roblox.
Roblox, right?
Roblox, the game.
Massive billionaires, right? And their son was in college and developed
Bipolar. Manic depression.
Yeah, no, but he was so bad, and they've got all the money in the world, right? And they are
He was homeless.
they could not help
Yes.
him. He was living on the street.
Yes, living on the street,
And
homeless.
they met Chris
And a
Palmer.
billionaire
And they yes, exactly.
Yes.
They could do nothing. And and then they got introduced to Chris Palmer,
Yeah.
the same guy that I was telling you about, and he told them that he could help, and he did, and Matt is living a normal life now. But we needed that to happen to people with money.
Yeah.
So these people saw what had happened with their son and have decided like they are going to focus a lot of their philanthropic efforts towards trying to help this. And so they are funding studies now. And so this whole ketogenic diet in the mental health space has just like exploded.
We
And
interviewed Brett Scher, yes,
yeah,
the day
he's
before,
just,
and he's with the Bazooki.
Correct.
He used to be
He's-
with Diet Doctor.
Correct.
Yes.
And he's a cardiologist. He's spoken
Right.
on our stage a few times as a cardiologist back in the
Now
day.
doing mental health
Now
with the Bazooki
now he is running their Metabolic Mind, their non-profit foundation.
And I've seen some of the Metabolic Mind YouTube videos.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we just need this to happen to someone else in the diabetes. Someone with that's literally going to have their feet chopped off or something.
Yeah.
And it gets reversed. I mean, it happens all the time.
It does.
But not to somebody who's somebody's son, to somebody that has a bunch of money that can say, wow, this is amazing. I want to try and help more people have access to this. But it's happened. It's happened to the Bazookis, and it's going to happen again somewhere else. And when it does, we'll be there. And suddenly there'll be this step function. This growth that we're just aching for.
Yes.
And we just keep scrimping and scraping and trying to muddle our way through it. But at some point, something like the Bazookis is going to happen to us as well, and then the gloves are off.
Yep. So it's been a wonderful discussion.
Dr. Brewer, before you close, I do have one critical question talking about Low Carb USA.
Yeah.
I can just wait to ask, turning consensus on its head.
Yes.
I love that phrase. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And so the folks who might not be familiar with Low Carb USA, what does it mean?
Yeah. So I think when we this was like 10 years ago when we first started Low Carb USA, and I designed this. And as I was learning about it, I heard people commenting about what we're really doing is turning the food pyramid on its head. And so if you'll see our logo is upside down food pyramid.
It's upside down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
Did you get that?
Yeah.
And so the fact that the consensus was and is still to eat all these carbohydrates. If you're just talking about diabetes, for instance.
Grains.
Yeah, so just eat all of the stuff,
Grains.
and
That's
if
the
you've got
base of the
diabetes,
pyramid.
then you just dose it with insulin.
Yeah. And then more grains.
Yeah, so everything we were teaching was completely opposite to what the mainstream was talking about.
Yeah.
And that main consensus we disagreed with. And we were talking about turning the pyramid on its head, and somewhere along the line I came up with turning consensus on its head. So that's where it came from.
That's amazing. Just a shout out to LPG12338. He gave us a super chat on the previous live, and I forgot to mention that. Thank you so much for that.
LPG.
And a big shout out to Low Carb USA. We're having a blast. Dr. Brewer finally agreed to get out of his cave and start talking to fellow low carbers and people who base this on scientific evidence for the health of people.
It's been wonderful, and I tell you, it reminds me of the conversation with Eric Berg. And one of the things I asked him, given where you are with your size in terms of your channel and what you've done and your organization, I said, what do you see for low carb right now and in the future? And he brought up a really good point. It's like we tend to compete with each other. And the real competition is not in here. The competition
is out there.
Yeah,
no, that's so true. I mean, and I think that we haven't talked much about the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, which is this non-profit that we've started. But the whole point of that was to provide a unifying umbrella for all the practitioners. And it doesn't matter what your philosophy is, and because there are a lot. There's many differing ones. You're right. And we all don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
But we have these fundamental core beliefs. And Rob Sivers is speaking tomorrow, and he's on our board of directors, as well as a few others. I'm trying to remember who else is on the board, from the board that's here.
I believe Dr. Westman is not here.
No,
Dr. Cucuzella is not here.
Cucuzella's not here. Miriam's not here. So I think Rob might be the only one. When we were in Boca in January, like the whole board was there. But I think it's easier for a lot of those people to get to that place than here. And it's also an easier time of year, I think, for a lot of them, where it's not as
when is it?
It's January. Yeah. So we had this amazing type 1 day. We had mental health.
Type 1 diabetes.
That was type 1. And we had actually started before that, but we created or put out a paper, like a position statement on type 1 diabetes and the ketogenic diet. It was submitted for publication today.
Oh, really?
So
congratulations.
So that the board is really, especially there's Dr. Tropalagian. He's like the other half of Low Carb MD. So Brian Lenskes is here. He's the other half of it.
Okay.
So they are the Low Carb MD podcast.
Very interesting.
So Tro is on our board, and he is like really pushing to get all of these projects done and stuff. So kudos to him, because we all did some work on it, but he worked his butt off.
Oh, is that right?
To get this thing published. So yeah.
Excellent.
Hopefully some people hear about that and give him credit.
So keep an eye out. So is he the first author? So
I actually haven't, the final paper that got submitted, I don't know who they've listed as the first author. But he might well be. But then again, he's not out for credit and stuff. Like he just in fact, he wrote the email that I'll spare you the language, but he wrote this thing to me this morning, saying it's been submitted. And one of the things, one of his comments was how proud Adele Height and Sarah Hallberg would be, because they both died of cancer a couple of years ago.
That's right.
But were so dedicated towards trying to make this difference in the diabetes space.
Sarah Hallberg really moved things forward.
Yeah, she was amazing. And Adele, our clinical guidelines and everything, she basically made that happen too. So she was a very special person. I was actually talking. Gary Taubes is the one that introduced me to her.
Oh, really?
And said you should get her involved. And when he, long story, but he was going to speak and suggested that we take a few minutes break, let people go outside and go to the restroom. So he was sitting on the edge of the stage, and I was sitting next to him talking, and we got talking about Adele. And about, he was saying and I said, I've got an entire team now that's trying to fill the hole that Adele left.
Yeah.
Because she was just something else.
Something else.
Yeah. So.
So this brings me back to the question we had earlier. What is Low Carb USA and the Society for Metabolic Health Providers? So as you can see, all these names keep popping up. Sarah Halberg, all the Robert Saives, Eric Berg,
Yeah.
Paul Mason,
Paul Mason, Anthony Chaffee,
Dr. Tro.
Dr. Trump.
Dr. Trump, yeah.
There's a major network of providers, and it's not like these providers have never talked with each other. And so that is what Low Carb USA is all about. And again, back to the beginning, we've got a gentleman here who deserves a lot of credit for keeping that network alive.
And for keeping the people on time. Every time they want to ask a question,
that
they
as well.
stay on
He's got
time.
a little bit of that in him.
No,
And that's made a huge positive difference about this conference.
Yeah, I think so.
You can actually hear what's going on.
Yeah, it's a pleasant experience for everybody. And
Very
apart from
much
me
so.
yelling at everyone else is having
That's okay.
It's quiet. Yeah.
It takes somebody to do that if you're going to get this quality of conference.
I appreciate that you say that because
It's gotta hurt you to have to do that.
It's
You don't
stressful
wanna
for
do
me
that.
to
Yeah.
do that, but at the same time I believe enough that it's important
It is.
that I do it anyway, and it's nice when people come and say thank you for doing that because otherwise I would have left, because that's the thing, we get into Q&A and I've been to a lot of other meetings and everybody just gets up and leaves because they don't want
Because they know
to
that
deal
first
with that
person's
person
going to turn
and
it into a
they
debate.
just and they
or a
dominate the
personal
mic.
consulting
No
session.
one else gets a chance to speak.
Yeah,
There's
and
this big,
everybody, and that didn't happen here.
Yeah, that's
The-
why
the
I worked very
questions-
hard to try and prevent that from happening.
And it worked.
Yeah, all good.
So shout out to Low Carb USA. We're gonna be putting a link on the description if you're interested to know more about that. If you're a health coach, dietitian, doctor, nurse, interested on low carb space, ketogenic diet for therapy for a bunch of diseases we just talked about, Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. I'm a metabolic health practitioner, as you know, Dr. Brewer, and
Yes,
we
I know
it's a tremendous experience. So,
Cool.
any closing remarks?
Don't let Tony the Tiger take over your dinner.
That-
How about you, Doug? Any comments, closing comments?
There's just so much. What I would like to say is we are publishing tomorrow an opportunity for maybe you can share this with maybe I'll let that go. If you share it with your community, that code.
Okay.
Big discount for people to come to next year as we're moving across the bridge to Coronado to the
that'd
Lowe's
be
Hotel
great.
in Coronado.
Yeah, let's do that.
I have the code.
You got the
I
code?
have
We'll
the
share
code.
that.
So I what I said to them was I'm not sharing this, we're not sharing it on our site.
Okay.
It's got the early bird code on there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but this special code
We'll share it.
is for everybody here, but anybody that they want, colleagues, friends, whatever they want to share it with, I think this counts, right?
Yeah.
So if you guys give it, anybody wants to come and join us in Coronado Island next year, it would be awesome.
Be careful, because we've had about 50,000 views so far just since we got here on these interviews.
Okay, well,
So you may get
right, that'll be cool.
yeah.
I mean, I've been saying forever, I want to put 1,000 people in the room.
Well,
That would be
so
amazing.
maybe you guys can
Yeah.
help us with that, yeah?
yeah.
Well, hopefully.
We look forward
We'll
to
love
it.
to have Doug Reynolds on the show
Yes, that would be great.
for maybe half an hour on the show
on a
that we do every
full-
Thursday.
Yeah,
A full
send me an
YouTube
invite.
We'll do that.
Make that happen for sure.
You'll hear from us.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you again.